All right, what's up, man? Taylor Conroy, aka Taylor Money, the guy that will make you abundant as fuck, right?
Dude, can we call this the Abundant as Fuck podcast?
It already is. You want to see? I already have the thumbnail made up for it.
Perfect. I trust that it says Abundant as Fuck. I'm excited.
Oh, it does. I'll show you right now. It's funny because when we were going to jump on last week, I had everything set up already. So we have it spelled Fxck or K. My bad. Can't even spell.
Starts with an A.
That's what.
Abundant as Fuck episode. Oh, I like that.
See, it's already done.
Done. Thanks, dude.
Instant.
Yeah,
Yeah, no worries.
the abundant thing, I was watching something yesterday. This guy was talking about how so much of what we do as men is to have access to women, or to be able to procreate and whatnot. And what I get a lot on like the lives that I do and stuff is people being like, every once in a while someone's on there and like, life's not all about money and da da da. I'm like, no, dude, nothing is about money. Nothing. Money is completely neutral, right? It's like, but the point, the journey and like the endeavor to go and get money is I think is the most incredible, beautiful, spiritual thing one can do, because it's the thing that allows us to, some people would call it like burn off karma, or accomplish the thing that we want to accomplish so that we can move to the next thing or whatever it is. And in this life, dude, we're material, right? We're like, we got meat suits. Your meat suit's over there, my meat suit's over here. And these meat suits are hardwired for partnership. They're hardwired for procreation. They're hardwired for expansion. Money's just a tool for all of that, right? And at the core of it, I think, and I was thinking about this morning, and I kind of wanted to riff on this with you. You know, you have a daughter. Do you have a son or any other kids?
No, hopefully one day. I have my daughter. She's 6.
Oh, okay, cool. And
Yeah,
what's
if
her
anybody
name?
wants to, if anybody wants to give me a horse, like you were saying, I'll trade sessions for a horse if anyone's willing. Her name's Aria. Yeah.
We got this on TikTok live too. So guys,
Wow.
he's looking for a horse. Mike's looking for a horse. If you got one, let me know. But I was thinking about this morning. I'm meditating and thinking, man, I tell, anytime someone hops on with me, like the number one thing people ask about is like, how do they find their why? How do they find their purpose? How do they find like the thing that's going to get them jumping out of bed in the morning and stuff? And I'm like, it's not going to be this thing that gets downloaded on you that's something like Mother Teresa mission, right? That might be mixed in, and you might be wanting to accomplish some big, amazing, beautiful, altruistic, impactful thing for sure. That sounds great. But dude, if the meat suit's not happy, nobody's happy. If the meat suit's not in a relationship that the meat suit wants to be in, then it will sabotage the bigger, more beautiful, spiritual thing until the meat suit gets what it wants.
Yeah, it's like life is a reflection of the amount of joy we have, right? So if we don't have joy first, and then we're trying to make money and relationships and all that stuff, we're going to settle for very minimal. The money, though, it's, in the Power of Thyself class I teach, I think it's part of day 1. We talk about the 12 physical dimensions, and there's 7 spiritual dimensions, right? So we're in the 3rd dimension here. And a big part of the 12 dimensions is financial abundance, right?
What is that? Sorry,
It's
Mike.
a family friend. You're good.
First time I've seen him 2 days. You got those grow in water? Put them in some water. Go grab a cup. You're too little. Oh my god. Sorry.
Awesome. You're good. It's a family-friendly podcast. It's cool.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to jump on, they can jump on.
He'll come on here in a second. He lives with his mom like 10 minutes up the road, and I didn't get to see him at all yesterday. I mean, he lives here half the time too, but
Yeah.
So please keep diving into that for me.
Sorry. Yeah, what I was saying, people want to say, there's 2 groups of people. Money's everything to them, and money's nothing to them, right? And both are wrong, right? Because like we were saying, kind of there has to be that balance. But what is money? Money is a tool, like you were saying, it amplifies our desires and like to actually manifest. And what I teach in these 12 dimensions is, I believe it's the 8th dimension is financial abundance, right? So it's understanding the forces of creation as one, so you can manifest. And money is ultimately a reflection of our energy. And to be in the spiritual path, we teach you to become godlike, right? We're here to learn from God and how to create and fulfill our purpose over here, right?
Are we?
And that's up for them to decide.
How the fuck do you know?
you know, so
How do
it's
you,
work.
tell me when did you figure out that the whole point of being here is to do what God wants?
When this all started, I was 5 years old. I had this vision, and I think most people can understand this. And I think when we're young, we're very pure, right? So we have these experiences. We're kind of like, what the heck is going on, right? We're dumped into this world. We have to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? We're coming in very curious and pure. And so I remember when I was 5 years old, I'm like, this place is a little like funky. Like, what is wrong with this? Like, why is everybody stressed? Why is everybody angry? There's all this kind of commotion and stuff going on. And I remember I was 5 years old sitting on my bed and it was very dark. And I was like, I want to figure out how to help people lead a good life. Right. And I had this kind of vision or dream of me just going through life and just getting beat on for like 20 plus years. And I saw myself in the future. At the time, there were two things I saw. I was on stage and I wrote a book. And that book was, how to help people live a good life. Right.
When you're 5?
When I was 5 years old. Yeah, I was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I remember this. This is like the most clear thing in my. So then, yeah, I saw myself in like my late 20s, just like helping people, and I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, okay, but I saw in that vision, I saw myself just, it's like somebody going to war and just getting arrow shot at them, just getting beat down. And then, there were a lot of years of, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? What is this? Like, does this even matter? And I shut myself off for most of those years actually because I just didn't want to deal with it. And a lot of people I work with, they have the same experience. They're just like, hey, life is too tough. I don't have anybody to guide me or clarify these things. These things I think I kind of know, but nobody's giving me actual context. I can't use this tool. And yeah, I think this is pretty normal. I shut myself off for years, and it wasn't until my daughter was about to be born, I was like, man, like this sucks. Like I don't know, I'm gonna be a terrible father. I was like scared, but that gave me the desire to like, hey, I gotta either end this or figure it out. It just became really black and white, right? It became a choice. And, I eventually found my guide. She was advertising online of negative energy removal, this like healing session. I heard people talking about healing sessions before, but it was very logical. As a guy, it's just like, okay, cool. It's like a 1-to-1. It's like, okay, I have negative energy. She's telling me she can get it removed. I've heard people had success with this in the past, so I showed up and I did it, and I had no idea what was going on, but I felt better afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then through working with my guide, receiving healings, she was like, hey, you can learn this stuff too. And then I sat in her class, the one I teach as well now too. And one of the first things we learn in that class is you are God, right? Not the God. Because people are like, what do you mean God? It's like, no, not the big man. It's like you're think of it as like a microcosm of God, right? We're all like to say, like we're all children of God. So what is our potential? Become God-like and to learn from God and use those tools and principles to create, love, abundance, joy, and fulfillment in our lives. You
Okay,
know,
so become godlike. What does that mean? Become godlike.
so what does God do? Right? God creates, God expands. What do humans do? We're always growing. Yeah, we're always growing and progressing. We're always creating and expanding. And I think the number one issue right now, personally, I think the number one issue right now is people are very spiritually disconnected. So it's like taking the plug out of the wall, right? You don't have a power source anymore because of that. And I don't mind somebody's religious if they believe. I tell people, like, do whatever works for you, right? For me, the hermetic path has worked absolutely best for me. It's given me a lot of clarity. But I have people that come to me, they're religious, they have different beliefs. Some people say, hey, it's just not for me. That's fine. Some people, goes with their religion, or they just take it on as a spiritual path. But for me, once I got these tools and teachings, it wasn't like it taught me anything new. It just like the light bulbs kept going off. I was like, oh, that's what that was. That was what that is. So it started filling all these gaps. And there was, I was raised Catholic, and then for Catholic school for 12 plus years, altar server, did all the things, read the Bible, all this stuff. And I was like, it makes sense, but there's pieces missing. So when I found the spiritual path, the number one thing the spiritual path does is empowers you. It gives you the power. So
You.
then when
You.
you, right,
No,
through
not no, you. It did
individual, yeah, yeah,
the number one thing the spiritual path did for me, because you're not talking to me, because you don't have no idea what my experience is.
yeah. But for me, it
So
gave it
what the
gave
spiritual
me
path did for you
correct.
was
It gave me the tools to empower me to actually move forward in life. Because before that, it was like, I think this works. I think that works. A lot of people like read a book, they do a seminar, they do so that, and they can't really put it together. But like, just like in business, it's like once you clarify that process and you have a clear plan, then you're like, okay, now I can actually, this makes sense. And you see yourself moving forward. Even if it's just a little 1% at a time.
You saw yourself moving forward.
Yeah, before I just felt like I was in the dark. And as soon as
Yeah.
this, as soon as I got initiated onto this path, it was like, now this actually makes sense. Now I feel like I'm in the driver's seat. And like I said, I mean, doesn't have to be for everybody. Just I like say, what really worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, and I guess I'm trying to be a bit like argumentative to just spice it up a little bit.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good for us.
Not that it was boring or anything like that, but
Yeah,
I just love as soon as I hear someone being like, well, you need to do this and other people and everybody and all that kind of stuff. Fuck other people.
yeah,
At the end of the day, fuck them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do. We have zero control. The thing that I've learned from my own learning that I see to be true is that I've got no control over anyone. And it's been reflected mostly back to me with the people that have been the closest to me in my life. And like I'm a kind of a coach, right? I give advice all the time. A lot of times the people that are closest to me that take the least advice, right? And I can't get them to do the thing that I think would be exactly what they need to do in their life.
yeah.
And so if my focus is like, okay, it's 100% on me. I'm growing and going to be like the most expansive version of myself for me, and then that ideally reflects out to other people. It's like the guy that you were talking about who's like these red pill guys. Let's talk about these guys for a second.
Are we going into what I was saying about like the distortion and the extreme? What happens? Or
Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
the red pill guys that are just like, this is exactly how it is, and da 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 da. Those guys have no fucking clue how it is.
It's very dogmatic, right?
It's dogmatic, and sure too. They definitely know a bit. Like I get it. Like they're talking about like hypergamy and stuff like that. That makes sense. That's kind of like nature,
Yeah.
biology for sure. And at the same time, don't you feel like it's just this? Yeah, like you said, you're distorted nature of, and it's like shoving themselves completely into the masculine, and then doing what I've been. This is my journey lately. Is I've been doing that to women. I've been like, I want you to communicate with me like this, and like it's very straightforward and blah 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 blah. And I said to my son's mom the other day, I said, hey, I keep attracting really masculine women. I don't know what it is, but like they're all over me like white on rice. They want to be with me and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, well, here's the thing, Taylor. She goes, you really love women. But the thing is, when you get, you start relating with one and you start getting close with one, you want them to be a man. And you expect them to be a man. And I'm like, frick. And she's like, the universe is just doing you a favor. It's just skipping a step. It's just like helping you be with women that are like men right away, so that you don't have to go through the rigmarole of trying to force them to communicate a certain way and being frustrated by them, which I see in this red pill community. They seem to be incredibly frustrated by women for their very nature, when in reality is the whole reason we love them. The whole reason we love women the way that we love them, because they're so drastically different, and all those like feminine ways they have, where it is like, oh, how do they do it?
It was inspiring. Yeah, it's funny because I had a class, I think it was 2020 or 2021. This is why I love principles. Not to be dogmatic, but principles give you the room to like
Have
hit this
you seen
side.
American Pie?
No. Oh yeah, I've seen American Pie. Is it what are you referring to?
We might have a band camp thing. Remember the other time the person's like, one time at band camp,
Yeah.
and
Principles.
yeah, principles one time, and the principles that I read. But yes, I'm with you.
But it gives you room to kind of see the polarity, to hit both sides, to experience the good, the bad, whatever, and then then you make your personal decision. Where do I land? Where does this relate to my life? It's not like, red pill super like, oh, it has to be this, or like religion, it has to be like this. And there's only like, you can only walk this, like, it's sliver of a thing. If you're this or that, you're bad, you're horrible, like your life's it's like terrible. It's very disempowering, right? Because so many things you said there are amazing. But it's sort of like, what's the best way to influence somebody? It's not, especially loved ones, because when I started doing certain things in my life, the very first people that were saying, oh, no, it's bad, don't do that, were my loved ones. And I'm like, I know that this is in alignment with me, and I know, what the fruits of it.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing to do is just show people the fruits. Just be like, hey, thank you for your concern, whatever it is. Because I've never convinced somebody by telling them what to do. Never, never, never. It's just a bunch of hot air. The best way to convince somebody is live it and be in integrity and just show them. because then they start asking questions. And when somebody asks questions, there's an openness to be able to receive because there's a curiosity there, right? You know, and I
That's
think
true.
that, and that goes into sort of the red pill type of stuff is like, nobody's asking for your advice. You're trying to
Mm,
shove it down somebody's throat and they're like, that stuff just doesn't work. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing that's so dangerous about it is that some of it works, some of it. And then when you get a taste of it, I remember being in my 20s and doing this whole like nag thing. You know what a nag is?
yeah, exactly.
Like you meet a woman and you're like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Your shoes are ugly," or something like that.
Yeah, you're trying to like polarize the situation. So like, you
Yeah,
know,
you're like it's like you're this like the pecking order thing,
yeah,
right? And the thing is, like, I remember trying to do it. And I was like, "Fuck, this works really good." But what sucks about when something an external like tactic works is
it's a
that
trick. It's a
it's a
trick
trick.
though.
And you're
It's
like, just
not. It's an illusion.
does the person love me? Does the person like actually into me, or are they just into this strategy that I have that
It
catalyzes an emotion in them that
it's
makes
an
them feel a
illusion.
certain way?
Yeah.
And then what a life to lead to be doing that and being like, oh yeah, I'm smart enough to get this person to love me. Like,
Did you
yikes.
ever read? Yeah, I actually want to expand on that because you can. It's very tempting to trick your way into success, right? You can trick your way into making money because there's plenty of people that they do crappy things, they make a ton of money. And what happens? They crash right back down. A ton of guys, like you're saying, they trick women psychologically into getting with them. So cool, they have a night, they crash, right? It's just this constant up and down, right? The only thing that's going to last is you, right? It's like, who are you
Yeah,
inside? And that's what's going
yeah.
to, where's your integrity? And that's what's going to attract the money and the women. Have you ever read the book, the Game? It's like a classic, like dating pickup book.
You know, a friend of mine would laugh so hard hearing you ask that question because I had an assistant when I was in my mid 20s, and I said, "Hey, I want to learn this game book. It's I don't know, want to read it myself. Read the whole thing." This is before what like philosophers notes and these apps came out that would summarize the book for you.
Yeah,
So I would have my assistant read the book, and then she gave me the summary of the book, and she's like, "Okay, here's how here's how it's supposed to go." So I've kind of read it, but not really.
that's step one. Is you're supposed to go up and like say something almost negative to like confuse them and like separate them. But what I wanted to talk about is like the very end of the book. It's like to win. It says to win the game is to leave the game, which basically means like everything you just read is all bullshit,
Yeah.
right? It's saying don't do all that shit. Don't do all the tricks and
Wow.
because it's a whole. You haven't actually read it, right?
No, I didn't know. That's profound.
So it's great because the whole thing is showing this guy who wanted to learn how to pick up women, and he shadowed with these pickup guys, and he saw into their day to day lives and the reality of it. And they were living with their parents. They were broke. They're having, you know what I mean. So the whole thing of the game is to, I think, what is his name, Sam. I heard it from Sam Parr. He has that podcast, My First Million. That's what I was like. Oh, what is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Neil.
the whole yeah. But the whole thing, it's a great book because I think all these things. It's like a men's purpose is like to serve women, right? That's why everything a man does in our life is to attract women because we're so inspired by the beauty, right? Everything we're doing is leading
Yeah,
towards that.
yeah,
And that's where the red pill, the pickup, all this stuff can get very going back to like the distortion and the extreme
yeah.
masculinity. Anything we push too hard and gets distorted because it's taking away it's taking away the sacredness of what's supposed to be, right? So it's like, women and sex is a very sacred, beautiful thing. But okay, you go and get hundreds of women right now. What are you doing? You're saying like, you're minimizing it to absolutely nothing. And when you minimize that, if you take the sacredness out of something, you take the power and the energy out of it.
I feel that really deep in the reflections I've been doing lately on myself and my relationship with women, and it's really timely that we're having this conversation right now
Yeah.
because the way that it feels, or my experience in cultivating these skills of being able to pick someone up and nag and all these kind of things and do neurolinguistic programming and whatever, was the outcome technically from a male logical perspective would look at the outcome like it worked, you got access to that woman, you slept together, whatever, right? That would be the logical outlook that like, yeah, it technically it worked, what's the word, like objectively it worked.
Yeah. Check the
that
box.
said that would be for someone who lives in their logical compartmentalized masculine brain, right? In reality, you got but a taste of the feminine. You got a taste for a night, and you tasted it, and this is the thing that we get addicted to. My experience have got addicted to that type of access to the feminine, which was maybe a brief taste, and then wanting to leave the rest behind, leave the chaotic nature, leave the darkness of it, leave the ups and downs and the roller coaster of emotions that also come with the feminine. Try to leave that behind. So I feel like the man myself, the man that I was when I was aiming to get access to the feminine for a brief moment in time, was a man that only wanted one part of the feminine. He didn't want the rest of it. And therefore he'd go in and get that part and then leave, which in reality, it sounds like, oh, well, then he's screwing over women. In reality, I'm screwing over myself,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I get into this distorted energy of masculine, 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 masculine. And then when I want a hit of feminine, I go get that hit, and then I come back into my masculine, which in reality, if you think about a life lived specifically solely in the masculine, it is a life unlived, because it's a life of black and white. It's a life of, you've got a daughter, when she colors, a coloring book or something like that, it probably starts with just the black drawing, or it's like, this tattoo at one point was just
Yeah,
black lines, right?
yeah,
And
covered.
that is the life of a purely, like, call it like 80, 90, 100% masculine
I like that. So
guy.
black and white.
Yeah, it's a life unlived, it's untouched, it's unpenetrated, it's unlike, you don't get the juice of it. It's like you're looking at the fruit, but you don't actually get to squeeze it. And so my personal endeavor right now is to realize that us as men are motivated by women more than anything else, hands down. Even at this point, like, I'm 43, I've just entered my 7-year cycle, right, on this planet. And so I'm in a whole new phase. And even I really think to myself, if I do the exercise that I ask my students and mentees and anyone I meet who's confused on what they want to do in their life, the exercise I tell them to do is like, what's just one thing you would just love, 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 love to have fall in place in the next 3 to 5 years? Just like one thing in your life. Don't worry about it being spiritual or material or whatever. Just like, what's one thing you would love? And typically it might be around, they want freedom, they want to make money so that they can blah, blah, blah. But it usually, when they go deep enough, it usually comes back to, I want to have this money so that I can have this house, so that I can have an amazing woman, so that we can have a child, and we can do all of these things when you get deep, deep, deep down into it.
Yeah.
So even the money is about the women. Even the house is about the woman. And we're creating, and like you said, we're creating this structure, like a physical house, right? So that it can be filled with feminine energy. And in my experience, what I would do is I would go back and, like, just want to get a little taste of it, right? It's like it's the exact same as like coming here to Hawaii on vacation and getting a hit of the ocean and then going back and living in New York,
Well, it's
right?
taking it's wanting the thing without the responsibility, right? The responsibility is managing the whole thing, right? You want that energy, you want the power, but like you can't have power without responsibility, right? So that's what's happening when people want to go in and get a taste and leave. They're like, oh, I don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah,
So they don't
exactly.
have, as soon as you take responsibility of yourself and another person and kids, right? It's like, then you have the power. As soon as you take, I get a lot of younger guys say, oh, I want to make more money. And I'm like, well, how much responsibility do you have? Oh, I'm only taking care of myself. I'm making like $5,000 a month. I'm like, that's all you need. Don't ask me any questions then. But it's not until you get that next level. Level one is you taking care of you, and that's good. You should fill your own cup, right? Level two is taking care of others, right? If it's level two is building a team in your business, level two is the relationship, the kids, and just every level is a higher level of responsibility. And every level up, you have more power because you have more responsibility, right? And that's where, going back, I guess, to like the spiritual stuff is the spiritual path ultimately gives you the responsibility. It's like, hey, we're going to give you some tools and teachings, but it's on you. What life do you want to live? What are the fruits of your life? And, do you have, if you do want the wife, the kids, the whatever, the impact, okay, here, you're in the driver's seat, do it, and we get banged around a little bit, but ultimately, like, the purpose is to move towards our higher desires and fulfill our purpose.
I I totally agree. And it's like, we throw around that word king, king energy, and you find
So
your queen and all that kind of stuff. It just like
yeah,
makes my skin crawl for the most part.
it's
That
all
said, if we go really deep into it, like obviously you're into the masculine stuff. I don't know if you ever read this book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover.
I've heard of it. I've never read it.
Amazing, amazing book. And I think any
Just
book that,
different archetypes.
yeah, different archetypes, different archetypes of men, and different kind of initiations and evolutions in men, right? And similar to, there's that book called He. It's a trilogy: He, She, and We, and it's phenomenal. I'm actually gonna write that down. I need to read one of those again. He is this story of Parsifal. I think it starts out as a page and then becomes a knight and then becomes a king or something like that, right? And there's the Fisher King is involved. It's like a medieval tale. It's like parable, then it explains what the parable meant. It's really, really cool. And the king energy is real. As much as the saying has been bastardized, it's real. It's in every single human.
It's like you
And
say. It's an initiation as you progress.
yeah, and at
Yeah.
some point you have it. And you often hear the people I think that use it, or the times that I would use it in my history, would be the times where I actually didn't have access to the king energy, but I could taste it. I was like, I know it's there inside me, and I want to step into that. There's no sense rushing it. It can't be rushed anyways. But I feel like if we just reflected just on that, just like king energy, if someone was genuinely in their king energy, then they would see everybody around them as being part of their kingdom, right? And I actually think this is a very healthy way to look at the world. I don't think it's unhealthy. I think it's healthy to go,
Brad
this is
Pitt.
all part, this is part of my kingdom.
He's pushing masculinity on us.
Yeah, then being that it's part of my kingdom, it's my responsibility. And if something's going awry, if if it was in a genuine kingdom, if something was going awry, people were fighting and stuff like that, it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's up to the king to handle that, right? He's not going to go, well, nope, you're in your kingdom and therefore you get to deal with it. No, it's on him at the end of the day to deal with it. And the biggest realization I had with this was the relationship I have with my co-parent, Marissa. It was amazing, amazing mom. Shout out to Marissa. She'll never watch this, but shout out to Marissa anyways.
I'll send it to her after.
She's like, dude, I've heard that guy yap for years. I don't
I'll
need to
send
hear.
it. I'll send it to my daughter's. I'll send it to my daughter's mom too, and they can get together and discuss it and be like,
Yeah, they can get together, both not listen to it, and then just have a chat by themselves is probably what would happen.
yeah, exactly.
But that relationship we had, that I remember going into interactions with her and feeling resentment, and because we had broken up, right? Feeling resentment and feeling some hostility and feeling anger and these ways. And that would show up in the way that I treated her. And that would show up in the way that I treated her in front of my son. Not ever like, well, you're a bad person or whatever, Marissa, but energetically, kids are like highly attuned to energy between their parents more than anything else, right? Mm-hmm. And so I watched this video on TikTok one day. It says, son is going to learn how to treat a woman based on how you treat his mom. And your son is going to learn how to get treated by a woman by how you get treated by his mom. And I was like, holy shit. Both of those things, and here's where I think the masculine and feminine differ. Both of those things are within the masculine's control. I would say both of those things are, I'm not saying both of, I don't know if it's one or both, but it's not both of those things are in control of the feminine, because the masculine is meant to lead. And so at this moment, I was like, if I can't talk about king energy, I can't talk about this shit unless I'm going to lead us to a place where we are in great relation, because the very nature of the masculine, penetrating, forward, aggressing, etc., is to lead. And I am a guy who skews heavily to the masculine, sometimes totally distorted 99-1, right? At times. And sometimes very rarely distorted the other way. But my nature is this. So it's like 70-30 is like, it'd be amazing to get to that sweet spot. Probably like usually around 85-15, maybe 90-10. But it's up to me to lead us to the place where there's no resentment, which means I got to go really deep and get rid of my resentment. I've got to lead us to a place where in our interactions, it's normal. She's then neurologically programmed and conditioned to, when interacting with Taylor, it's going to be a good interaction. That doesn't start with her. Nothing starts with her. It starts with him, right? And when I hear guys, I've got buddies will say, they'll complain, oh, the mother of my child, she's doing all of this and stuff like that. I'm like, and I'll say, you fucking bitch, you little fucking bitch. You are being a pussy right now. You're the leader. If you complain, you cannot, like, literally, you cannot bring a complaint to me about your baby mama ever again, because you're the leader in that relationship. And what you do is what she was going to follow, period. And it's only when we like really lean into that and actually admit that the masculine is meant to lead, right? And by the way, the women that are in their masculine can be with guys that are in their feminine, and the women can lead. I get that. Totally get it.
No, yeah.
People can be 50-50, but I don't finish the thought.
Angry comments.
What in
You'll
you're
get
getting
angry. No. You'll get angry comments like, "Oh, there's always an argument about masculine and feminine."
yeah,
But
of course.
yeah,
I totally understand. And to each their own. My experience is that the masculine is here to lead.
yeah.
And my experience is when we lean into what is biologically ours, what is naturally our energy, in my experience, that's the only time that happiness and harmony within the kingdom is actually produced. And because it allows each person and each energy to flow in the direction that it's meant to flow.
Well, I think to expand on that last part, it's like fulfillment is fulfilling what we're supposed to do, right? So masculine and feminine energy, we have different structures, right? That's why we have different strengths, different weaknesses. Not necessarily weakness, just different strengths. We differ, right? So it's understanding our structure, because our structure gives purpose, right? Like a hammer and a saw do two different things because they have different structures. Masculine and feminine do different things because they have different structures. And when a guy utilizes his physical structure, his energetic structure the way it's supposed to be, he has power that way. So somebody who's taking responsibility and using that power receives more, right? That's why like guys feel really good after a hard workout, is because that's what we're built to do. We're built to do the tough physical things. Women feel better after doing things that are more feminine because that's what they're built to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we feel like, oh wow, I'm actually in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. Um, I think I agree with everything you said about the king and the queen, the masculine and feminine, and I would say for the guys, what big lesson for me is, guys are always, life's always coming at guys a little bit differently than women.
Say
Not
that
better
again.
or worse, but I said life is always, coming at guys a little bit more aggressively and different than women. And as I was co-parenting, a big thing I learned was like, hey, don't make any broken promises. Keep your word, because to lead somebody, they have to be able to trust you, right? That's an aspect of the feminine, is to be able to receive and trust. So if you're not keeping your word, they're not going to be able to trust you, or you'll never be able to lead them, right? They'll never be able to relax. In the same time, I guess on the flip side of that is a woman that's always stressed and angry and stuff and giving all that crap to the guy. What's he supposed to do with it? So it's like, yeah, in our own lives, yeah, like each individual should act first. Each individual should take the responsibility. Hey, if something's bad in my life, I need to take the first step. And I'd say the same thing with the women. It's like if your situation is not ideal, then you need to see, what do I need to shift in myself, and how can I take the next step, right? Can I be a little more open, a little more trusting, and test it out and see,
Mm-hmm.
see where it gives me, right? Because
Yep.
energetically, spiritually, women sit higher than guys, right? Women come into the world with all this value. Guys come almost at the, we come at the bottom. We have
Valley.
to, we have to earn our way to the top. We have to earn our position in the kingdom. We have to earn the queen, right? Because if we're down here, we have no value. What type of women are we going to receive? So how that looks energetically is women. This is another reason why I love talking to younger guys, because they're like, oh, I came home, my girlfriend and wife, they're telling me all these things and these 10 different things, and they're stressing out, they're worried. It's like, yeah, that's a gift. You have to understand the feminine, because she can see guys are like simple computers. We do one thing at one time very good. Women they're way better, like supercomputers, multitaskers. So that she's seeing the potential, and then she's giving it to you, and you're supposed to pick out that one or two things to lead and take action on, right? So they're more connected to the higher spiritual realms. She's bringing that stuff in that's going to help you grow and delivering it to you. So
Totally.
the good thing is she's going to help you reach far beyond your black and white state, right? Your stagnant state. That's a woman's going to be able to help you accelerate that. But if she's bringing you in crap and negativity and stuff, and she's like, hey, go take this junk and go out in the world and build something, you're like, okay, well, here's your junk back. And then there's argument and disagreements, right? So I think a really important thing to do is, sort of what you're saying is like, oh, I keep track on these masculine women. It's because men expect women to think like men, and women expect men to think like women. So it's just disharmonizes, right? It's like, if you want a woman to think like a guy, will go date a guy, or a woman that wants to, that's fine. But even in those relationships, there's still, if it's two men or two women, you'll still see that masculine and feminine kind of polarity there, right? Then nobody's ever the same amount of feminine, same amount of masculine together, right? Even like even a business partnership, I've tried to be in business with guys who are just as masculine as me, and it's like two rams just butting each other's heads the whole time, you know. So yeah, because that's another thing to clarify. Masculine, feminine is there's the physical aspects, but then there's the energetic aspects. And like we were saying, everybody has masculine, feminine, different balances in that, right? So you can be in a business partnership with a guy, and you're slightly more masculine, he has more feminine, and it flows because of that. And then, what happens when those come together? You actually create something.
Agreed. So how's your sex life?
Amazing. How's yours?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
great. Tell us about it.
Well, I think there's once you understand the feminine, these different energies, you can apply that to it, and you just weave a closer bond, right? And that's built, the best sex is built over time, right? You can't. That's another thing that we rob ourselves of during just hookups and just like short-term dating.
That's nice. I asked you about your sex life. How's your sex life right now?
It's great. Well, that's what that's why. That's all you can make. I guess the title can be how to make your sex life even better.
Ooh. So wait, how
Yeah.
long have you been with you're in a partnership with someone?
No, not currently.
Okay, God. Okay. And are you just like out there experimenting, or what's the strategy?
Strategy is, I've done, I tell guys all the time, dude, I've done all the partying, I've done all the women, all that stuff, right? I didn't get anything from it. I had the experience, I had the hardships and the negative lessons to have the understanding now. But if I could have skipped all that stuff, if a guy can just focus on himself from 20 to 25, you're going to be ultra successful. Still socialize, still date and stuff like that, but don't make that your main focus, right? Your main focus I believe your main focus as a man should be your mission. And everything
For
comes from that. The money, the relationships, the friendships, everything, I think, mission first for a man. Um,
Totally agree. Yeah. As we're reading, I've got a couple of people commenting. Someone's saying who's speaking. What's your handle on TikTok?
I don't know because TikTok's going away, right? But
It's not going anywhere.
so Instagram is at Michael Tiani _ MichaelTiani. TikTok, I just kind of post and forget. Oh, TikTok's the same thing with no underscore. So
You say it
Michael
one more
Tiani.
time. He's going to say it for you right now.
At Michael Tiani, MichaelTiani.
Mikey at Michael Tiani. You'll find him.
Yes.
And then on Instagram, someone's saying it was when we were talking about the masculine and feminine energies. I'm not exactly sure what part that they disagree with. It's a woman. She says, "I disagree with this. We all
That's fine.
have." You don't say.
That's fine. That's good.
Brain buster. I disagree with this. We all have a masculine and feminine plane. That's
I
what
said
we've been
that.
saying. Yep, we've
Yeah.
been saying that. It is about every individual balancing their own energies.
Said that.
Exactly what we've been saying, and becoming whole.
Said that.
That sounds like a potential long journey. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a continuous journey.
It only successfully works with two wholes come together. Here's my question: does this person think that whole means 50% feminine, 50% masculine? If so, I'd say they're dead wrong. Or does it just mean embracing what one? I think whole is like an acceptance of what one is in their natural energies and cultivating what is going to be the healthiest for them. For example, you started our conversation about when we were talking before we went live about how according to hermetic principles, that 70-30, so as a man, 70% masculine, 30% feminine is ideal because it
Ideally,
creates
yeah, it's kind of boundaries.
boundaries. From what you're saying, I 100% agree. That feels very aligned. That feels aligned. It actually feels perfectly aligned because my intention at the moment is to cultivate more of my feminine, right? Because again, I'm like can skew heavily the other direction. So I'd say a 70-30 guy with a 70-30 woman. God, that sounds fucking awesome.
I'll just take off. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh,
It
that's like
doesn't
I
have
think
to be because
so.
there's
I just gotta ask this: what's Blackbird's request? I have no idea what you disagree with, unless you're listening to a different podcast and then coming on here. We've been saying exactly what you're saying, but I would love to know what for you defines whole, because maybe that's where we're misunderstanding. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, I think, one things I always offer people where, I like how I don't want to just always agree with people. I want them to always agree with me, right? Because you don't learn anything. It's kind of that, seeing the polarity of that where you can like, okay, I can see where he's kind of right. You can take a piece. Like this is what we're talking about, and then put it together for yourself and like ultimately what works for you, right? So I always offer people have, an open mind and just be curious, more curious. And then, because there's a lot of stuff like I initially was like, oh no, never. That doesn't make sense. Oh, it's stupid, whatever. But it's kind of, I just put it on the back burner. And maybe
Yeah.
like 3, 4, 5 years later, when that thing actually gets applied, I'm like, oh, that was that thing. Now I get it. Okay, cool. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to be
What
all.
You learned what this thing is?
This is your masculine and feminine creation right
My
here.
little guy. This
Yeah,
is
that's a
Leo. Do you want to say
that's
hi to Michael?
Yeah.
That's Uncle Michael right there.
what's up, buddy?
Yeah. Say hi.
You got the cool hair too.
Oh yeah.
That goes and the Goki.
The Goki gets that?
Okay.
Goki.
Oh
Would
my
you pick?
god.
Did you pick some flowers? Was that what he was showing you before?
You picked some flowers? Oh, you're out of here?
Was that the thing he was showing you before? I thought it was.
You showing me some of those like magic things that you put in water and it's like a little
Oh,
dinosaur
they
in it.
expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what those are called. But the wholeness thing, I'll talk to whoever is asking that question. I'll kind of answer this to them. The
Yes,
wholeness
please.
thing, people have a misunderstanding of. I see this in healing. I see this in whatever. Ideally, yes, you want to be as balanced as possible because that's going to create the strongest partnership. But we're all imperfect in some sense, right? We're not perfect, but we're trying to perfect as we grow. And it's more, I think the focus should be more on where are we going? If it's yourself, how can I continuously grow and progress myself? And with that, you're going to attract better and better relationships, right? You don't have to, a lot of people say, oh, well, you have to be like completely 100% healed before you can actually go into a relationship. And it's like, that's impossible, right? We're always expanding. We're always going to be picking up things. There's always going to be new challenges, new circumstances in life that we're going to have to look at and look at ourselves, right? And yeah, in a relationship, I mean, you want to get to, I would think you should get to a point where you want to give more than you can take. And if two people are like that and they both understand where they're going, then they start working towards that goal. Right.
How do you get there? That sounds like life goals right there. How do you get to a place where both people want to give more than they take?
I mean, that's really what love is, right? That's what service is. It's serving others. It's kind of like we were saying. It's like step one is like ourselves, right? Those are our more developmental years, and we get sort of a grounding and footing in life. And then we're like, oh, well, there's, going back to what you said, initiations, we have self initiations, we have life initiations, where I say like marriage, having kids, where it just puts you on a different plane in life, right? And yeah, as we progress and develop and our consciousness expands, that's when we start asking ourselves, okay, well, I'm a young guy, I made the money, what's next? Okay, next for me is, making more, doing more, helping more, and you don't, I think you talk about this in your videos.
So
Was that?
is that I just think it's like, we started talking about this as the abundance is fuck episode.
Yeah.
And I think those two things meet really nicely there of I want to give more than I can take.
I got this right. The more you give, the more you receive, right?
100% sure, for sure.
That's what we get tattooed on here. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you forgive, the more you're forgiven. The more you love, the more you're loved.
That sounds to be the crux of all of it, like the real magic of like the more you love, the more you get loved. And in reality, I think everything that we're doing is a expression of or a search for an intention to get more love or freedom, right?
Well, what is like we were talking about the 70-30 and the infinity loop, right? If you're 70-30 and they're 70-30 and you're giving, they're giving, what happens in a relationship? That infinity loop and the abundance of love and everything in life expands and becomes greater, greater, greater. Right? So you have to give to be able to expand that thing. Right? You can't another thing is, my teachers always say you can't give what you don't have. We have to cultivate that thing first. And I see in your content as well, we have to dip into the thoughts, feelings, and actions to cultivate the thing we want to be able to give it, to be able to receive it back. Right? It'd be very selfish to say, okay, well, miss, imagine, I like to use extremes just to paint a more vivid picture. But imagine somebody who's like really angry and negative and like doing harm to the world. They're like, I deserve love. Like, what are you putting out? You're not putting out love. You don't have love, you don't have love to give and you want to receive love.
Totally agree, dude.
No, Dad.
Okay, how about I'd love to play cars with you in 5 minutes. Are you open to that?
No, can you fix his tail?
Yeah, I would love to fix his tail. And then maybe we can play some cars out in the living room. Thank you for letting me know. How's that?
Good.
Okay, go show Auntie Jess, okay? She needs to see that. I'm going to come out in 5 minutes.
No, I need those.
There you go.
Yeah, I think another good thing to cover is you're saying balancing or developing feminine aspects of yourself, right? And when I first heard somebody go, "Oh, well, you need to balance out your masculine and feminine energy," I'm like, I don't want to be a woman. It's like I don't want to be a woman. It's like, what do you mean? Like, be more feminine? Like that doesn't sound natural to who I am, right? It's not. It has very little of like the physical representation of feminine. It's the aspects. It's those levels of consciousness that we need to have a direct experience with to have cognizance and understanding of it, right?
Yeah.
So, showing this.
I'm just gonna get his auntie to entice him with a game, and then he's gonna help outside.
I'll cover this while you're gone. So to develop these feminine aspects, it's for me it was having more trust, having more openness, having more worthiness, more love. If we look at just very black and white masculine and feminine, masculine is force energy and then feminine's the container, right? If we're talking about sex, if we're talking about creating anything, you need the container to put that energy in, and that's what creates a thing. If you don't have a guy that's very distorted masculine, that's always working very hard and putting his head down and kind of just running himself into the wall, he's not able to receive. So he's going to limit himself. He's going to eventually hurt himself and cutting himself off because he's not able to receive. So I think a focus of the feminine is, hey, how can we open ourselves up more to receive? That could be, spiritually, that can be internally, that can be externally. Internally is like, what do I need to clean and cleanse and let go of so I can actually receive more, right? Because we hang on to our opinions, our fears, all our crap. We hold on to that. We can't see that stuff, but we can feel it, right? And we hold on to it. So to open, receive more, to heal feminine aspects of ourselves, we need to let that go, right? It's like this cup is half empty, so I can receive this much. If it's empty all the way, I can receive this, and I receive more, I overflow, I share with others. So yeah, that's when they're a little confused about like, because I understand it's like when we talk about the spiritual stuff, we're talking about this stuff. It's there, but we can't really feel it, or we can feel it, but we can't hold it like this phone, right? So we think it's not there. It's too hard to understand, but really, to learn anything, we need to have a direct experience. We feel it. I've mentioned this a million times on this podcast, but I was teaching somebody how to snowboard maybe a month ago. And I said, hey, do this, do that, use your heel, use your toe, feel it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, but I'm scared. I'm like, okay, you're safe, you're with me, just do it anyway. So the focus was fail faster. And that gave them the direct experience. And it was funny because 10 minutes later, they go, I heard you talking about do this, do that. But he's like, I didn't really get it until I felt it and I knew it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why we sort of everything. It's like we don't have the thing until we become the thing, right? We can trick, like we were saying about the pickup and stuff. We can trick women to get dates. We can trick clients. We can trick all these things to get these self-serving things. But it's not until we're actually that thing, we actually feel that we're actually that thing. That's when we actually have it. Because when we feel it, we know it's there and we cultivated it.
Exactly. And it's reflected in our outer reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how this was supposed to be not supposed to be. We're talking about it. What's that?
But talking about money, we're supposed to talk about money.
Should we talk about money? Maybe a little bit.
No, I think we're good. Let's do another one. I've got a call that I need to jump on in 13 minutes, and I'm going to play with my little guy for a minute. But
cool.
I think
actually let me wrap up one thing. So I appreciate he was coming on, right? So it's like, without masculine and feminine relationships and coming together, we can't create. Without you coming together with his mother, you couldn't create that life. It's like this beautiful. It's amazing. That's the highest initiation we can have is being a parent. Without coming together, the relationship creates the thing, right? Without the relationship, we can't create the thing, and we can't grow and experience and have all this fulfillment in life, right? And that's why it's so funny with all these attacks on what's masculine, what's feminine, and all these opinions. All that stuff is doing is backfiring. All the feminism, all the red pill, it's backfiring. It's separating people, and then everything drops. We don't create that thing, and that's what we're here to do. Is ultimately create that thing. So, yeah, it's taking personal responsibility. Be your best self. They should be their best self. Find those people you can come together with and create more beauty and experience, amazing levels of life.
100% agree. Totally agree with that. And for anyone who's watching, who's thinking, maybe he's tuned in to listen to talk about money and stuff like that, I think it feels like the best point that was made was that, or the thing that resonated the most with me is that everything in my life, and I'm saying this for others, maybe saying it more for myself than for anybody else, I'm like internalizing it deeper, is like the real key to manifesting or bringing life into your money, or money into your life, or whatever it is, or relationships, is like that thing has to be in you first so that it can be reflect outside. And my experience, my inner world is simply reflected to me by my outer world. And so if it's reflecting back to me lack of money or whatever, it's reflecting an energy that's in me at the time, that's currently in me. And I can go and access the feminine. I can go and access little bits of money. Like you said, I can go and access these little bits here and there, but they'll be fleeting unless it currently exists in me. And my biggest learning, I would say, this year happened. I was in Mexico. We just built 4 houses. It was an awesome trip, like one of these like heart-opening experiences. And we've built 150 of these houses. So I've been on a lot of them. I've seen the keys getting handed to families for the first time and all this jazz so many times.
Can you do that without money?
No,
No, that's what I mean. That's why money is amazing. That's why you're serving other people through having this abundance.
Totally. Exactly. So I've done that a bunch of times. Anyways, I'm sitting there meditating on my Airbnb the day after that, we were basically the day before I was supposed to leave, go back home. And I had this like big, deep click. And I was like, it just popped in my mind. I was like, oh shit, like all the feminine energy that I've been wanting, the thing that I've been searching for outside, it's all inside. And I know that sounds like everyone's like, yeah, of course, everyone's got masculine, divine energy, feminine energy.
People think it's woo-woo, but it's like, that's what it is.
It's logical. For me, it was logical. Then it sank in at like a deep cellular level that the feminine energy is in me. And therefore, then I immediately like went back through my life. I was like this timeline that expanded through my life of all these attempts to get the feminine, whether it be to get into a relationship or to be dating or perpetuate or dating multiple people or whatever it is, these attempts to get access to the feminine, because the core belief inside me, which I was unaware of, was that I don't have it and it's something outside and I need to go get it outside. And so now as a newly 43-year-old man, it was my birthday a few days ago.
Happy birthday.
As a nearly 43-year-old man who's currently single, it feels like the biggest shift that was needed to be able to go into partnership and not be taking, we're talking about like giving and taking, not be trying to take any of that energy, because I don't need any of it. I've got it all right here. And it's like the person who was talking about Blackbird on here is like, it's my version of being whole, not 50-50 masculine, feminine energy, not 100% masculine, 100% feminine energy, not 100% zero, whatever. It's me being in my natural state of 70-30 with the ability now to attract a equivalent on the other side, right? A 70% feminine, 30% masculine woman. And us to know that we don't need that thing from each other. So that us getting together is like simply an expansion on the enjoyment that we already have in life.
Yeah. I need to say one thing, because I think this is a big like bomb to drop. Well, it's a good bomb, but to grow, we need to move beyond logic. And I see a lot of guys get stuck there. They're so rigid, and it's like 1 + 1 is equal 2 and stuff like that. But think about, as we're developing the feminine aspects of ourselves, women are not logical, right? They're more open. They're more open to magic, and they can take quantum leaps because they can see far beyond. So to really get out of your current state, to expand up to more abundance, you have to be open to something that just doesn't make sense. But because something that makes sense is going to only justify your current state, it's going to keep you boxed in, whether good or bad, whatever. But if you want, I was talking about this on the podcast to this guy Cole yesterday.
Keep rolling, keep going, so that these guys can hear you too. I just need to say goodbye to my son. Keep going.
But yeah, to expand to the next level, it has to go beyond your current state. It has to go beyond what currently makes sense. Because if it made sense to you, then you would be using it now, and you already have that fruit. You'd already have that result. And what I was saying, I was talking on the podcast yesterday with this guy Cole, was anything that really drives us forward in life, it's not about what our mind says. Because if there's an opportunity, our mind's going to say, okay, well, I only have this. Our mind starts giving us our fears and limitations and opinions, which keeps us stuck. What our heart and our gut is our higher intelligence. It's going to say, you know what, anything I've done in life that's really propelled me forward, it didn't initially. One, I probably was just like, no, I'll never do that, or I didn't like it, or I didn't agree with it at first. But there was a knowing inside that said, okay, well, these are the circumstances. This is what they're asking of me. It doesn't make sense to me, but it feels right, and that's what I'm going to follow. And every time I followed that, I became more and more clear in my own intuition and senses, and just seeing more and more consistent growth. I think that's another way to understand the feminine aspects for a man or a woman is, don't be kind of a pushover and be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do whatever. But, you have to be willing to step into the unknown. You have to be willing to be curious. You have to be willing to be like a kid. Every level of life, whether it's business or relationships or just growth in general, every initiation. Initiation is to begin something as a new beginning. So that new beginning, you have to be as curious as a newborn child and say, okay, what's next? Because the more we know, the more we know that we don't know, right? So keeping a curious mind and curious mind and strong work ethic will get you really far. And then the money, that stuff's easy. Just be a good person.
You got someone on TikTok going, her name's Riri. She says, who's this guy talking? Women are not logical. And she's got like the duh face. No, Riri, he's saying that the feminine is not inherently, does not live in the realm of logic. And it doesn't.
They're masters of the internal world. Men are masters of the external world, right? That's why, So it's funny because these kind of questions, like, we're all on the same page, and none of this is, these podcasts are meant to just, if you hear something, I want somebody to hear one thing that they don't like about this, and it might piss them off, but I want that to sit in the back of them and say, okay, I don't agree with this guy, but I'm going to test this thing out, because if we don't actually put it into action, we don't actually know. So don't take this as just like mind candy and entertainment. Like, if you heard something good, test that out. If you heard something that you didn't agree with, test that out, and you'll see, like, you'll expand, right? But this is the first one that's been on stream, so it's cool to have. I'll probably start doing that for mine.
We should do it next time too. We can actually take more questions as well. There's a bunch of people that are commenting stuff that I didn't get to. But yeah, dude, next time. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. Very much appreciated. And guys on TikTok, thanks for joining, and Instagram Live. Appreciate you. We'll see y'all another time.
Just give this like 1 second real quick.